Let us treat the subject of conditional sentences. This is a very important topic in SSCE examination, in JAMB or UTME, even those in the higher institution, those doing their masters. Conditional sentences form an important aspect of their questions. So I encourage you to pay attention and stay till the end. Conditional sentences are usually made up of two clauses, and these are the conditional clause and the consequence clause. Now, the conditional clause often begins with an if, and so it is also called the if clause, while the consequence clause is known as the main clause. Let us take an example of conditional sentence. We have that if it rains, then the ground gets wet. The if clause in this sentence is if it rains, then the ground gets wet is the main clause or the consequence clause. You can see that the result of the raining is the ground getting wet. Most times, the then in the main clause is omitted and the sentence still remains the same. If it rains, the ground gets wet. This is an example of a conditional sentence. Now, types of conditional sentences. There are 4 types of conditional sentences, and these are the zero conditional, the first conditional, the second conditional, and the third conditional. Note that questions under conditional sentences are usually centered on the verbs used in the if clause and the main clause. And so the focus on this video is on the verbs which are used in the if clause and the main clauses of the different conditional sentences. Let's start with number 1, the zero conditional. The if clause of the zero conditional sentence usually contains simple present tense verb, either a V1 or a V5. Similarly, the verb in the main clause is also simple present, either a V1 or a V5. So, in a question on conditional sentence, once you notice that the verb in the main clause is simple present, know therefore that the verb in the if clause has to be simple present as well, and vice versa. Now, let us take an example of a zero conditional sentence. A good example is the one we have made earlier. If it rains, the ground gets wet. This is an example of a zero conditional sentence. Let's look at the if clause. The verb in the if clause is simple present, rains, is a V5. You notice also that the verb in the main clause is also simple present, gets, is also a V5. So both the if clause and the main clause usually contain simple present tense verbs. Okay? Now let's move to number 2, first conditional sentence. In first conditional sentence, the if clause also, like the zero conditional, contains simple present tense verb, either a V1 or a V5, while the main clause contains simple future tense, that is, will plus a verb 1. In other words, will plus a verb in its base form. So, in a question on conditional sentence, once you see will plus a verb 1, know that the verb in the if clause has to be simple present tense verb. Okay? Let us take an example here. If he speaks to me, I will congratulate him. Now, in the if clause, the verb is simple present, speaks. It is a verb 5. Look at the main clause, I will. I will signify future. Congratulate, which is the base form of the verb. Okay, so the main clause is usually will plus the verb, while the if clause is a simple present tense verb it takes. Please take note. Next, number 3, the second conditional sentence. Here, both the if clause and the main clause usually contain simple past tense verb. Here also, simple past tense verb. Okay? So, if in a conditional sentence question, you notice that the verb in the main clause is simple past, what does it mean? That the verb in the if clause has to be simple past also, and vice versa. Let's take example. If I were a governor, nobody would pay school fees. Look at the if clause. If I were, a simple past tense, were. And notice that the verb in the main clause is also a simple past tense verb, would. If I were a governor, nobody would pay school fees. Let's go to the last one, the third conditional sentence. Here, the verb in the if clause is usually a past perfect tense, that is, had plus past participle, while the verb in the main clause is would have plus past participle. Okay, so once you see would have plus a past participle in the main clause, know that automatically the verb in the if clause has to be had plus past participle. Let's look at an example. If I had gone to the university, I would have studied the Urhobo linguistics. Now look at the if clause. It contains the verb if I had gone, had, and past participle. And so the verb in the main clause is would have plus past participle. So what is required of you is for you to know the verbs used in the if clause and the main clause of each of the conditional sentences. Then you are able to answer any question on this topic. Now, in a separate video which I will release tomorrow morning, we are going to answer questions on this subject matter. Please share this video, comment and like, and recommend this page to others that they too may learn. Thank you very much for watching.